This is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video, and I am very excited to have with us today attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She has a family and real estate law firm out of Worcester, and she often joins us on a Friday afternoon to talk about topics that are related to those types of law. Today, we are going to be talking about something really exciting because we are coming out of a pandemic and it's the spring. We're going to be talking to you today about some tips for buying a home and really what you should look out for legally when you are making a giant purchase like that. Welcome to the show, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us.
I was dying. I'm like, please finish. Oh, it was a tickle and it just kept growing. And I'm like, oh my God, make her stop, make her stop, make her stop.
That was a good intro.
It was. And I was like, don't make her do it again.
We really need a blooper reel for all these interviews because there's some funny stuff that happens. When Brian Jones counts backwards from 3, he usually, a lot of times he'll go 3, 2, 1. And then it's hard for me to keep my composure.
And you know what? You're always going to be able to find his video.
That is so true. But I have to edit that out, obviously. All right, so I'm going to let you count backwards. Please don't give me the finger unless you really feel like you'd like to, because it is a tough time for you right now.
That's right.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Thank you so much for having me, and hopefully we can learn something a little bit different today.
Well, I've bought a few houses in my time, and I know that there is probably a checklist that you have for your clients on what they should look out for when they are considering buying a property. Can you share some of those tips with us today?
Oh my God, there's so many. I think the biggest thing is, first and foremost, find a good realtor. Don't do it yourself. Don't be I'm going to go and buy a house because guess what? You're going to get in trouble. And that's putting it nicely because I had to figure out a good word for that. But the reality is you're not going to get what you want for the price that you want. You're going to lose things that you don't even know you're entitled to. So get a good broker, get a good attorney. Those are the two things that are mandatory. But again, you need to kind of look at what you want. So what are your major factors that you want in a house? What are your must-haves? What are your maybes? What are your wants? So we're going to look at a whole bunch of those things, and realistically, your attorney or your broker are going to go through that checklist, at least initially, before you even start looking for a house. The other thing you have to do is make sure you have a good mortgage broker that's already available to you, and you've already kind of pre-screened so that you know what you can buy.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that there are so many nightmares that can happen. I mean, the movie that comes to mind is Money Pit with Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, and they buy this thing and they think it looks like a good idea, and there's so many hidden things. So I'm glad that you're mentioning some of the professionals that you need, especially at the beginning of the process. So, I mean, is it true that spring is the best time to buy? Do you think there's a big real estate bubble that's going to pop soon? What are your thoughts on when the best time to buy would be?
Well, good question. Right now, it's all the time. You're going to look for houses right now, and unless you're a millionaire, guess what? You're probably going to get outbid by a lot of properties because inventory is non-existent. So when inventory is non-existent, that means the sellers can charge a lot more for their property. Their value is more. So you're going to be paying more. And if you don't qualify for more, you're going to be stuck with everyone else that's in the same bracket as you, and you're going to try to get above that. So what benefits do you have to make you more appealing to the seller? That's going to be the real problem. But realistically, I don't think there is any good time to buy or bad time to buy. Spring market is when 99% of the people put their houses on the market. And guess what? Again, now you have 100 more people that are trying to buy that one house. So the best time to buy is when inventory is really high, because then you get a good selection. So that's really what you want to look at versus the time of season.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I know that our particular house went through several buyers, that we wouldn't have had this house unless those deals fell through. Fell through 3 times before we could get this house, because there were not a lot of houses this price, this size in this area. And that was a good situation for the seller for sure, that wanted to do some renovations and flip this house quickly. So I mean, I know a lot of that happens. I can't wait till there's a time where there's just a line of people that are looking to sell their houses, and they need to. But I mean, I know right now, because of the pandemic, there are a lot of programs helping people hold on to their houses for the time being. And so I would assume that's what's creating this seller's market.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, nowadays it's a little difficult with the pandemic for some people. How can people find out how much they qualify for when they're looking to buy a home?
Best thing to do is, again, ask your attorney, ask your realtor about a good mortgage lender. Don't go on and say, hey, I can go on quickenloans.com. I know you can. So can the rest of the world. Guess what? You're going to get a piece of paper that is completely useless, that isn't really a viable mortgage lending institute. Yeah, they'll get the job done, but they're not going to pre-qualify you. They're not going to actually go through all of the questions. So go to somebody that's usually local. It might be your banker that you really have a good rapport with, but find that person that is really going to get the information, that is not going to say, oh yeah, you qualify for 200,000. Well, you might qualify, but the question is, what are you going to give up as a result of that? Is 200,000 your maximum? Can you push it a little bit more? If you're pushing it, how much is going to be the taxes, insurance, and other escrows that you're going to need to pay every month? So you have to look at that big picture. Your mortgage lender should be going through that with you and saying, okay, so your principal, interest, escrows are now going to be $2,000 a month. Can you afford that? Let's kind of look through that. Let's look at, okay, we're going to have oil heat. So oil in the winter, unless you're on a budget, is going to be this. You're going to go through all of those expenses, so you really know what you can afford. Because again, it's a bottom line thing. And guess what? The one variable you're never going to know is going to be the taxes. Every year, the town or city in which you live in can readjust your taxes. So if they significantly increase, is that going to hurt your ability to make those monthly mortgage payments? So you really got to make sure that you're comfortable and you understand what the ramifications are, and then get a real pre-qualification letter that says specifically, this is what I can afford. And more importantly, when you put that offer on the house, make sure it has the property address. That gives it an extra touch to know that you're really working with a mortgage lender, not just a fly-by-night.
I mean, that's a great tip. You have to really stand out. You have to make your offer stand out in order to get that property when there's a lot of offers out there and they happen quick. So let's talk about betterment and assessments, because this will hopefully keep you from buying a money pit if you get the proper assessment. Can you let us know about these particular terms and what you can do when you're buying a home to make sure that the home is in good shape and that you're getting a fair price, even if there are some repairs, that is reflected in the price?
Well, your assessments are obviously going to come from the town, so they're going to be what they value the property at, maybe lower than you're purchasing it for, maybe higher. Depends on the town, depends on what's going on. Your betterments are what they're going to do for the property or the area. So prime example is something like they're going to connect you from a septic system to public water and sewer. Okay, who's going to pay for that? You got to have a betterment of the road. Who's going to pay for that? There's going to be a set amount that the town or city is going to look at and say, you need to pay me $10,000. The question is it going to be paid by the buyer? Is it going to be paid by the seller? And more importantly, what is the monthly or yearly amount and when is that due? Because if it falls on you and you're going, okay, well, I applied for the mortgage, taxes, and insurance, and now you get hit with this betterment, holy crap, now what do? Where do I come up with that money? And so you don't want to be in that situation. So that's one of the things that the attorneys are going to look at and determine how much money that you're going to need and how you can afford it. Again, can we work out some kind of payment plan? Is there some kind of payment plan in place so that we can afford that betterment or that assessment?
That sounds similar to when we were speaking about condos and how they had assessments every once in a while to change over a roof or buy a new water heater for the building, that sort of thing. It sounds like that's what you're talking about, but where it has to do with a house in a town.
That is correct. So they're basically the same thing. It's just different formalities and different people looking for different things. So again, you're going to be looking at big picture of what is going on in your immediate neighborhood, whether it be on your street. Sometimes it's just installing light poles or telephone poles. Again, the town can assess you for those things. You need to know what they are. They obviously have to go through their requirements as well, and they have to notify you.
So I know there are a lot of documents involved when you are buying a home from everywhere and everyone. And that's why you need an attorney to help you through it, because you don't want to miss something and then end up making a mistake that might cost tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Can you walk us through what a few of those documents are that we need to be aware of when we're buying a home?
There are very many. I think the biggest thing is going to be your basics. So you have your plot plan, which is basically a diagram that shows where your house is, where your garage is, where any other buildings or structures are on the property in relationship to your 4 squares of your land. And obviously 4 squares doesn't have to be 4 squares, but that 4 corners, how are we defining it? Then you have something like a CML. So a CML is also known as an MLC. It all depends on where you live. Basically what that is a certificate of municipal liens. It will show your outstanding taxes and what are going to be due in the following quarter. It also shows your water and sewer that is outstanding or if it's been paid in full. So that's what that document is going to entail. You're also going to have, most importantly, is probably going to be both the offer to purchase and the purchase and sale agreement. Offer to purchase is going to be the very first document that you and your broker are going to sign that says, I'm making this offer on this property. Once it's accepted, we're converting that document to a purchase and sale. So this 1-page offer to purchase now becomes a 20-page purchase and sale agreement that lists every single thing that you could possibly address in this sale of this property. If it's a condo, we're going to be looking at condo documents and rules and regulations there. Lastly, the attorney is going to be looking at both the title report that has come back to see who owns it, if there are any title issues that have been outstanding in the last 100 years. Does chain of title match up? And lastly, the HUD, or the settlement statement, that shows exactly how those disbursements are made. The other documents we're going to look at is the title exam. Does that show that all of the information for the last 100 years is proper? Has there been a title exchange from one person to the other? Is there any discrepancies? Is there any things that we need to worry about? Those are the things that we're going to look at. Another document is going to be the last document we kind of look at, which is going to be the CD, closing disclosure. Basically what that is a breakdown of all the fees. So the bottom line number is how much money you have to bring to the table, but it's also going to show where your mortgage went, where your escrows went, what you paid for the deposit. All of those items are going to be line itemed on that document to give you a bottom line that says this is how much money you need to bring and this is how the money is being allocated.
Now, I'm not aware of what a plot plan is exactly. Can you give us a few more details on that?
The plot plan is very different from a survey. So let me start there. One of the issues on a plot plan is it is somebody going out to the property who does surveys and takes a look at it and literally eyeballs it and goes, yep, this is where I think the end is. This is where I think the house is. Okay, yep, nothing's there. And it's an eyeball survey, basically. But that's what it is. So you're going to get a diagram that's going to have, like I said, that four corners. And on that, it's going to show exactly where your house is, where the driveway is, where the garage is, where your property ends. And maybe, big things we want to look at is your garage all the way on your property? Is your neighbor's garage or your neighbor's house or the neighbor's fence on your property? Those are things that we want to make sure of. So we need to find out with an eyeball view, that's a written document that says everything is on the property that you are purchasing. Land survey, just so you know, is completely different, which is where they go and put the actual stakes in the ground and say, these are your four corners. And then they mark it off with ties. So it's the same concept. It's just one is very in-depth in comparison to the other. One you can rely on and one you're literally relying on an eyeball view.
So you've given us the difference between a plot plan and a survey, because I was going to get more details on the survey. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the CML shows?
So the CML, again, Certificate of Municipal Lien, is from the town, and it's going to show what fees, what expenses are outstanding. So it's going to show you all of the taxes that are due for that year, that fiscal year, what has been paid to date, and what remains outstanding. It will also show the water and sewer amount, if any, that is owed and left unpaid. And it will also tell you whether or not there are any fees, such as that betterment or assessment, or maybe there are past due taxes or water and sewer. Those will also be listed on there. And that is a document that is recorded at the Registry of Deeds when you close on your property.
I mean, and that's all really good to know if you're going to buy something. You want to know what is owed. You don't want to have surprises. It's already a huge purchase, and you probably have to get together a big down payment. And it's just, you don't want a roadblock right in the end of your process. So I'm glad that you're mentioning all of this. Can you talk a little bit about how the CD documents are calculated and what goes into that? What are they considering?
So the CD is going to start with your purchase price. So the purchase price of the property is $400,000. That's going to be on the first line item. Then we're going to have disbursements such as I made a down payment on this purchase of $10,000. From there, we're also going to look at those numbers that are on the CML, and we're going to plug those in. So are they unpaid taxes or are they paid taxes? So you're either going to get a credit or a debit. Other expenses that you may not have to pay, but everyone else will, is broker's fees. So broker is going to be most likely paid by the seller. So again, why not have a broker, especially if it's free? But you're going to have those fees, maybe. You're also going to have your closing costs according to your mortgage lender. So you got to look at your good faith estimate that you got when you first retained that mortgage company to see what that is. So it's going to be prepaid interest. It's going to be, certain fees that you are required to pay, interest, taxes, insurances for 3 months is a general standard. You're going to have to pay an appraisal fee. You're going to have to pay maybe points. That's what they call it. So you're going to pay those things. I don't want to go into all those details because each lender is going to have something different and they can get very verbose. The other things you're going to end up paying is obviously your attorney's fees. You're going to be paying for that plot plan. You're going to be paying for ordering and recording the CML. You're going to be paid for a 60 certificate if you have a condo. So there are going to be those additional fees. And again, those are all going to be either added or subtracted depending on which side of the column they belong to. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to bring up either a bank check or wire money into the account of the settlement agent that says you owe $300,000 because you didn't have a mortgage, or whatever the case may be, or your mortgage was only $100,000. whatever that number looks like.
Again, really good information to have. So this is all really great, and it's a lot to digest, and you will see some infographics that list this. But if you have any questions and you really are considering buying a home, you should absolutely give attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee's office a call, because they are experts at this. They do it all the time. And this is not something that you want to do on your own if you're not a real estate attorney. I mean, it just isn't. So do yourself a favor, protect a giant investment, save yourself a lot of headaches later, and give them a call. I want to thank you so much for coming on today, Nicole. Really appreciate your help and, and patience with us here on a Friday afternoon.
Thank you.
Yes, and I hope that we'll see you again next week. Thanks everyone for watching.